name is Joanne, and let me introduce the sponsor of this webinar, that is Music in Color, and explain who Music in Color is. So we are an organization that is, let me just put it plainly, obsessed with the science behind music and how that science of music is used to help rehabilitate the brain, which helps the brain achieve all it needs to achieve and in record time. So to us, music isn't just art, it's not just singing. To us, music is a powerful tool that helps the brain achieve all it needs to achieve, because it is the only thing, I repeat, it is the only thing that talks to the entire brain from beginning to end. Every single part of the brain that has been so far mapped out by neuroscientists to date, music touches every single part of it. And that is just the first powerful thing. The second powerful thing is that it forces every single part of the brain to work together at the same time. So neurons fire up and they light up all together when music is present. And as we go on, you'll understand why that is really powerful. So that is what Music in Color does. Our main clients are neurodivergent children. So these are children who have been diagnosed with autism or cerebral palsy, dyslexia, ADHD, any condition that is classified under neurodivergent. Our secondary clients are clients who have gone through stroke or encountered any form of aphasia or any condition that has affected their brains. And then our tertiary clients, the list I think we have, are those in old care homes who are going through Alzheimer's and dementia. But our first love, those who we work with, 90% of the time are children, and they're why these therapies exist, to help you as parents, to help you as educators, to help you as therapists understand why music therapy should be forefront in everything you do. In the interventions you choose, music therapy should be number one. In fact, if your child is between the ages of 3 to 7, you should be working with a music therapist and an occupational therapist. You should only be working with a speech therapist who uses music in their practice, okay? And I'll explain why in just a few seconds, okay? So music therapy is crucial. Now I've said one, it's because it's the only thing that talks to the entire brain from beginning to end. And two, is that it lights up the brain altogether. So I'm going to mention two new things called neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. I don't know if any of you have heard that. So disclaimer about these webinars, they do tend to get technical and biological for those who have never joined. So there are going to be a lot of terms that, are out there. So, and that have to do with the brain. So neuroscience, okay? So it's music and neuroscience. That's what music therapy is. So back to neurogenesis. So neurogenesis is basically the birth of neurons. The fact that the brain has the ability to grow new brain cells, and which is what we call neurons. And this was actually discovered just a few decades ago in the 1950s. Actually, ni juzi too for some people. Ni juzi. Because for a long time, neuroscientists thought that once you've gotten to the age of 25, whatever brain you have been dealt, hiyo ni yako, there's no changing it. If you did well with it, good for you. If you didn't, well, too bad. But over time, they began to realize that the brain never stops growing. It never stops forming new brain cells. So that's neurogenesis. Then we have neuroplasticity. I'm sure some of you have come across that word. It's being used a lot nowadays, neuroplasticity. And what it is basically the brain forming neuropathways. And neuropathways are ways for the brain to communicate with each other and to help you remember to do a particular activity. So the reason you're able to walk from crawling when you were a child is because neuroplasticity happened in your brain. Certain neurons fired at the same time that helped you now learn to do a particular thing. You learning how to drive, you learning a new language. All that happened because of neuroplasticity. And these are very two powerful things that have brought a lot of hope to parents with neurodivergent children, telling them that it doesn't matter how affected the brain was when your child was born, is that eventually, with proper interventions, the brain can actually learn to do what it needs to do and in an efficient way. Okay. And one thing I like telling parents is that there's nothing wrong with how your child brain is. It's divergent, it's different. But in that difference, there's a lot of power that it has that we who are considered neurotypical or normal don't have access to. Okay, so understanding that power, embracing that power, learning to work with that power can see you opening such big and amazing lives and doors for your children. So neuroplasticity. Now, I want us to really focus on neuroplasticity and why it's important. So I've said neuroplasticity is just forming neural pathways. So roads, okay? Roads to enabling you to do what it is that you need to do. I am finding it really hard to focus in darkness. Hey, let me tell you, my people. But we shall power through. We have a candle. This is a candlelight webinar. Okay. So, and the better the connection, the better the information, the better you're able to do anything. So, for example, how many of you are good at direction? That once you've gone to any place, once, you just need to go once or twice. How? Ni wangapi? How many are like me? So I said this webinar will be interactive. So either raise hand or react or something. Just say yes. I'll be able to see. Ala, are we together? My 5 participants.
Yes.
So Michelle, good with directions or not?
I'm not.
We have one note. Anne, good with directions?
Not quite.
Ala. Lillian, you're good with directions? That hand is for good with directions, yes? Because now
Yes,
we have Anne. Good. We have somebody who's joining me. Somebody's joining me. Miriam, are you able to speak? Are you good with directions? Yeah, Miriam, by this you an issue na connection. Okay, so let's see what's the difference. What's the difference between Isaac is also good with directions, but of course Isaac. So let's see the difference between our brains, between Lillian and my brain to Anne and Michelle's brain. Okay, so what happens to a person who is good with directions? Normally, is when they are going to a particular place, we're always looking at different things. We look at the shops, we look at different signages, we look at basically either 4 to 5 things pertaining to wherever it is that we are going. Okay, so when that happens, and what we're also doing is we're employing different neurons. So something we have smelled, something we have seen, multiple things we have seen, and then something we have heard towards where it is that we're going. So what that does is that it fires different neurons, okay? So we have fired the neurons for visuals. Your visual cortex has fired, your auditory cortex has fired, your olfactory cells have fired, neurons have fired. So you have like 3 to 5 neurons that are fired all together. And the principle of neuroscience states that neurons that fire together wire together. That is very key. Neurons that fire together wire together. Now remember, this is the principle of neuroscience, not music therapy, neuroscience, all right? So what does that mean? Either when you're looking at anything or when you're doing anything and you fire multiple neurons at the same time, they connect, okay? They hook to each other. And the more they are, the stronger the bond and the stronger the information is kept, okay? So for those who are bad with directions, you only maybe ever notice one thing. Pale palikuwa na kibao imeandikwa Kabarnet High School. Hiyo kibao ikitolewa, you are lost forever. You never know. Ama uipite, ama you are not focused, ama you came the other direction and did not look to you the way it did before, then you're lost. Why? Because you're only ever focusing on either one or two things, meaning you're firing very few neurons at the same time. So the information that you're keeping doesn't stay, okay? So if you want to be good with directions, what you want to do is Get as much information as you can about the place that you're going. Fire as many neurons as possible. Now, how does that pertain to music? Why does that make music so powerful? Because of the second thing I said about music, that in the presence of music, the brain fires all neurons at the same time. Let's think about that for a second. The brain, so far, they say that the neurons that we have are more than the stars in the galaxy, the entire galaxy. Like ISO, like it's common, it's numerous, okay? But when we listen to music, when we engage in any musical activity, all those neurons fire at the same time. And if you want to know how powerful that is, Michelle, can you remember a song that you learned in primary school? One song.
Okay, let me try and remember.
A different question. How many songs can you sing from beginning to end that you like? Are they more than 5?
No, they're actually less.
They're less than 5.
Yeah, I usually sing with say a playback. Kiimba. So
Really?
yeah,
Ikianza kuchezwa, that's when you're able to sing.
yes.
How old are you?
I am 19 years old.
That is good. You know, the best thing about this is that we get to experiment with different brains. Wonderful. Thank you. Anne, which song can you remember from primary school?
I think I can remember part of Chakutumaini Sina.
Ndio. Ulikuwa enzi zile tulikuwa tunachukua nini newspapers zimeandikwa our favorite songs.
Yes.
How many of them do you have in your head?
No, none. I never focused on those ones.
Kwa hivyo nikikuwekea kama ukisikiza what is this channel that plays all these old songs? The Classic 105. How many songs can you sing to?
I can sing along when it starts.
But many, isn't it?
Quite
You
a
can end
bit. I
up
mean,
singing along to
a
quite
bit
a
of
few songs.
Michael Jackson, a bit of Whitney Houston. I can remember some of them, yeah.
Sindio?
Yeah, I can.
Can you remember what was the last thing you learned in high school? Last
In which
lesson.
subjects?
Your favorite. Which was your favorite?
Can't even remember what was my favorite now. That's an interesting question. I don't think I can remember.
You can't, Sindio?
The only thing I can remember is the drama around my accounting paper because I had misplaced some of them. I had misplaced my calculator.
Yeah. So it's the events. It was the events.
It was the event. Yeah, I can remember that.
What the paper was about. Isn't it? So
yeah.
you can see just the amount of information that is carried in music that our brains actually store. Even Michelle, if you think about the songs that you love right now, and you're in a very, very important part of your life, what we call the formative years. The formative years mostly begin when we are between the ages of 18 to 25. So at 25, that's when we finish developing what we call executive functioning. But in regards to music, that is when you listen to songs that will actually remind you of who you are when that information is lost. And I usually say, God forbid, and it's literally God forbid. Anything happens to your brain, anything happens to your memories, and you wake up and you can't remember who you are. The only thing that can bring back you, it is actually music. And it's the music that you listen to and you loved between the ages of 15 to 25, that decade between 15 and 25. The music you listen to, the music you love, that encodes you as a person, as your personality, as your likes. All that comes back when you listen to music that you listen to within that time. So Michelle, in an exciting time of your life. So enjoy every music that will be produced and that you'll fall in love with for the next decade. So man, kudos. I'm kind of envious. So, and not envious at the same time. So the ability of music to fire neurons all at the same time is what makes the information music carries so powerful. And that is why when we are working with children, we want to actually have music as the entity that carries the information we want them to have. Okay? So when it comes to speech, a lot of children can sing but not talk, like that case you have presented, Anne. And why is that? Because when when you're listening to music or when you're singing, even the parts of the brain that have not developed all they need to develop for speech, which are, we have the Broca's area and the Wernicke's area. Niliwambia, there are going to be sciencey things coming and going. Okay, so one is responsible for understanding of speech, the other one is responsible for production of speech. So most children have the production of speech being affected. But when they are singing, music actually creates a bridge over that part of the brain and helps them produce the speech that tends to be difficult when it's just dry. When it's dry speech, like the way I'm speaking, when the melody is taken out. Okay? Now, when you think about speech, you would think speech has to be creative, isn't it? It's a creative thing. You have to come up with words, they have to come out nicely. And you think, well, what part of the brain processes speech? Then that has to be the right side of the brain. It's creative, it's artsy, and all this. But actually, the part of the brain that now focuses on production of speech is the left side of the brain. And that deals with logic. So your left side is what is mathematical and analytical and all that. So production of speech is actually there, but creation of speech is in the right side of the brain. That is heavily given to art, okay? Artisticness, creativity, intuition, okay? Because if you think about how you speak and how you talk, where the words come from, you'd think they come from an ether, a world of spirits, because you don't know what you're going to say until you say it, isn't it? So the left side of the brain is the one that ends up tending to have a bit of a challenge in the production of speech. But when we use music to help children develop communicative speech, we bypass any interruption or any resistance that the brain might have because we sing through. And the more we sing through our words, the easier it becomes for the child to communicate and for the child to latch onto the words and for them to be able to give it back. So yes, obviously there are different techniques, like the one I gave for feelings, isn't it? So when you're singing, Mary had a little lamb, in fact, one of the things I always recommend doing and what we do within our sessions is you sing a particular song over and over again, okay? So Mary had a little lamb, you sing it every session. You can add 2 or 3 songs to kind of dial down the boredom, without making the child feel as if they have to answer back. Let them either hum along or just listen, or whether sway in the music, whatever it is. Then once they have gotten used to that, one day you just sing, Mary had a little, and then you keep quiet. Because the brain has gotten so used to how it ends, and because there's something in the brain called entrainment, that the brain always latches onto rhythm and wants to complete the sequence, the brain will now nudge, itself or the mouth to say the word lamb, okay? And then you have to do that over and over again. And eventually the brain gets used to communicatory speech. Mary had a little, they say lamb. Little, they say lamb. Little, they say lamb. Okay? You're already beginning. You're giving them the foundation of speech development. You do that with 6 songs, increasing the number of words that they're saying within every song, increasing the space of the feeling. So you may just go, Mary had, then have them fill in little lamb. You're increasing the level of communication as well. So those are some of the things that we do to develop speech easily with music. And it's something that you can do at home without even having to look for me or any music therapist or even a music teacher. These are actual things you can do at home. And my rule is always of 3. Have 3 songs that you repeat 3 times in a sequence of 3 weeks. Okay? And then check how things go in 3 months. So that's speech. But today we mostly wanted to focus on focus and concentration. See what I did there? There's a lot of focus and concentration, how music boosts focus and concentration. So one of the things we need to understand is that those two things are different. Focus and concentration are different. They're not the same thing. And especially when it comes to children on the spectrum, because of how their brains are wired. And you notice that a lot of children on the spectrum have a challenge with keeping eye contact. Okay, they will probably have a lot of fidgeting or will look in any other direction and so on and so forth. So one of the things I like to point out at the get-go is that when you're working with a neurodivergent child, they might look as if they are not focusing, but they are concentrating. They are with you in the task, okay? But developing both is very, very crucial. It's very, very key. And that's why music is the best. And I hope some of you were able to go through the little write-up that I did in the group about focus and concentration and why music is really key. And I can break it down a bit to help us understand how piano especially helps build both. So one of the things that we start doing is we learn to just play one note, just one note. And they have to find that one note in the simplest way. It has a color on it, and it's a color that they have chosen. So why are we called music in color to begin with? Yes, because we're very colorful, but color also calls attention to the brain. That's why cartoons are colorful. You'll never see a child watching a cartoon in black and white. Hizo enzi zilipita, zilikuwa enzi zetu. We are old, but zilipita. So cartoons are very colorful and they're very musical. Is it a wonder that children will spend hours upon hours just watching Cocomelon? And that's why you're being told, keep away Cocomelon, keep away, screens and all that, and I'll touch on that later. But having them use color to call their concentration is important because it has to be in a stimulating environment. Your brain likes distracting itself. It doesn't even need help. Just if you were to be in a room that has no distractions, your brain will still distract itself. It will find something else to think about. Okay, so you want to use things that are very engaging, and color is one of them. So place an interesting color like yellow or orange and have them just play that note. Okay, then bring them back if their concentration drifts and then help them play that note. That's lesson one for a child who has difficulty in settling down. Oh, the lights are back. Then the next thing you want to add 2, 3 more colors. So you have the child focus on those 3 different colors and just play in alternate sequences. You have increased that focus and concentration. Then now it becomes a simple melody, like Mary Had a Little Lamb. Then you increase that melody to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Stars that has 5 notes. So you've gone from 1 to 3 to 5. So already you have increased that child's concentration span without them feeling as if it was a challenge or as if it was very difficult for them to do. And that becomes very exciting for the brain. Why? Because the brain loves learning. It is what it was built for. Just learning and feeding on information and being able to give it back and use it. So when the brain is not able to learn, when the brain is not able to express itself, then comes the frustration, then come the tantrums, then come the meltdowns, because it's not able to communicate back to another brain. Okay, so that is why it is important to use music to build up on communication, to build up on focus and concentration. And it's fun because one of the other things that music does to brains that it makes it very happy. It produces a hormone called dopamine. Dopamine is what we call the feel-good hormone. I always refer to the hormone that when you eat chocolate, when you really want chocolate, or when you're craving a cheeseburger and then you just have the first bite and it's the yummiest, that happy hormone, or when you're listening to just the right song and you're in a good mood and you feel as if you can fly because that song is just hitting all the right beats, yeah? That is dopamine. It's the feel-good hormone. And I'm sure by now you've had a lot of dopamine addiction, why it is bad. Now let's talk about that and what to do about it. But dopamine is also called a neurotransmitter, okay? Meaning when neuroplasticity is happening, dopamine is present. And that is why we have all become kind of sort of addicted to our phones. Because when we watch something completely ridiculous, on Instagram, we laugh, we are happy. And so that reinforces our brain into thinking that this is a happy thing for me to do, so I should do it some more. So to get the dopamine hit. Okay, now that is on the negative side. But on the plus side for kids, when they're able to interact with music, when their brain is able to understand the language of music, and it's because music is the food that the brain craves at every point. Once it's able to do that, then it feels happy. And the child gets excited and they're able to keep coming back to that lesson. They keep wanting to learn more. They keep wanting to engage in that session much more because dopamine is being produced, because they're able to learn more, they're able to understand. Eventually, the child is able to express themselves. Okay, they're able to communicate. Rhythm is another thing that is very powerful in music and that we use to regulate our emotions. Because when a child is crying, what is one of the things we do? We pat them on the back, isn't it? That patting on the back actually helps balance or slow tapping on somebody's back. So let me make sure, let me move this so that we don't clash. Minutes.
Recording in progress. There. Just give me a minute. Okay. Let's see. I think things are stable now. There I am. That is how, this is a crazy face of the person I've been talking to. Okay, so where was I? Now I've forgotten. Focus and concentration and dopamine and neuroplasticity. Who can remind me where I was? I lost my train of thought. I completely lost my train of thought. Lillian, do you remember where I was? Ah, yes, I've remembered. Dopamine and the cycle. Okay, so when children are working with music, they want to keep coming back at it. And now I remember I was talking about rhythm and entrainment. So yes, when you're tapping on a child, when they're crying, when they're emotional, even a friend who is bereaved and is really sad, or even yourself, if you're crying so much, what do you notice you end up doing? You end up either rocking back and forth. Subconsciously, you rock back and forth because your brain actually knows that this rhythmic movement will calm you down. Okay? And this is what we call stimming in kids who are neurodivergent. When they start, either running around or screaming or having a high-pitched thing going on, they have different ways of stimming. But it is a rhythmic and repetitive thing that the brain needs to do and the body needs to have to actually calm down the nervous system. Okay? So, and I had a very good explanation, and by had I mean had, from a parent saying that she gave an example of being on a long journey. Umepanda mat za kwenda Nakuru ama basi ya kwenda Mombasa, and you've been at it, there was no rest point, and you finally get to your destination. And instead of being allowed to come out, like normally you come out, you stretch, you want to walk somewhere and breathe in and out and all these things. Now you can imagine, instead of being given the allowance to do that, you're told to get right back in the car and drive back to Nairobi, no rest, no break. You would literally go out of your mind. And that is why stimming should be allowed for children. But there's something called rhythmic stimming with music, which is very beneficial to kids. So what we do in such instances is sing a rhythmic repetitive song, like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, or even the Wheels on the Bus tends to be a very good one for kids to help them through their stimming. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. That part of round and round, to a grown-up, you're like, why do you keep repeating it? But if you sing it as a grown-up, you'll actually feel yourself coming down. coming down, round and round. There's something in that. There's a joke there somewhere. Okay, so but that just round and round, round and round, round and round in that rhythmic way actually does calm you down. It calms your nervous system even without you noticing. So when it's happening to a child or when you're doing it in class, that relaxes them really fast. Okay, because the fastest way for the body and brain and the nervous system in itself to just go back to homeostasis, to go back to balance, is when music is introduced. Okay, my brain knows that when I'm overly spent, I always have a ridiculous nursery rhyme or song that will pop up out of nowhere, and it will not stop until I'm calm. And at times it's annoying, but I usually know that if this is going on in my head, that means I'm anxious, I'm tired, and I need to calm down. So for kids, if you are able to notice the times when they are getting amped up, is it towards the end of the day? Is it a day when they haven't had enough physical activity? Because those are other things that really make the body feel pent up, especially for young boys. We need to understand that young boys should have as much physical activity as possible in their day, which helps reduce the amount of frustration that they feel. So having that and then having them engage in music will really help them learn to control the emotions, to regulate the emotions much better. And that is why for institutions, I always recommend having musical activities 3 times within the day. You want to have it when you're starting the day and you're getting the kids ready for class. You know, they're singing through some of the lessons that they are going to have, whether it's the ABCDs or it's the 1, 2, 3. There's so much music in terms of learning that we can use during the day. And that's the best time to engage with it. Then you want to use it in the afternoon when the brain and the body are a bit tired and there's food digestion going on. You want to listen to instrumental music when children are channeling their creativity as the body is relaxing and the brain is recharging when they're doing their coloring. You want to have that. Then towards the end of the day, you want to bring in dancing so that whatever energy has not yet been properly spent is now finished within movement. That's a lot of schools call it music and movement, which is really, really important. And if your child doesn't have that in school, when they get home, play music on the radio, Lillian. Play music on the radio and let your child dance and sing to it. They need that. Because other than the having fun, other than the dopamine that is being produced, they are actually learning so many things. They're learning their words, their speech development is actually working, and especially if you're able to play the same song consistently at a particular set time. For those children who you are targeting to develop occupational activities of daily living with, music therapy is best for occupational therapy because it puts in songs at particular times to achieve the activities that they need to achieve. But when you're dealing with speech therapy, you want to have the same song so that the brain has enough time to pull out as many words as it can, okay? Then you want the dancing to come in because you're also now relaxing the nervous system and pulling out any excess energy that might not have been spent. And if you're able to do that consistently within your day, consistently within your week, consistently within your month, then a lot of the challenges that parents are having, that therapists are having, that institutions are having with neurodivergent children, they would drop drastically. These are things that you don't even need to hire me for. You can actually do in your institution and at home. The only thing we lack and why these webinars are here is the knowledge to understand just how powerful music is. So use it in the right way. Understand the power it holds. It will understand how to use it to develop the milestones that you're in need of, whether it's speech therapy, whether it's occupational therapy, whether it's focus and concentration. It is the tool that you want to use. And remember that if you want the results that much faster, you want to have your child do structured music lessons that involve reading and playing an instrument. I always insist on that. Listening to music, it's great. It will still stimulate the brain. Singing, it will still do the same thing. But the thing that is like a full body workout for the brain, it is when a child is playing an instrument through reading music. And that is what all our children who are in our program do that. That is one of the things we insist on, mandatory, whether it is speech development that we are working on, its focus and concentration, whether it's physio, whether it's increasing and perfecting and refining their fine motor skills. For us, playing an instrument and reading music is a non-negotiable. They have to do it and they enjoy. And that is why they meet their milestones way faster than in any other traditional therapy. Not because of any magic that we do, no, because we understand the science behind music. We understand the neuroscience behind music. Okay, so it is now 8:46. Is there any question that I have not yet answered? Especially in terms of focus and concentration. It has been an interesting evening. No lights, now lights. I'm sure my mind was everywhere. That much I am 100% sure of. But is there any question that I haven't answered? Especially Lillian, you had mentioned your 5-year-old son. If there's one thing I can recommend that you do, is have music in his daily routine. Okay, you want to have a wake-up song. If you can have a wake-up song, I did it with my child when I was introducing school system for her, and she ended up loving waking up after a while, which is surprising because I still do hate waking up early in the morning. That hasn't changed. But for her, because I understood the difficulties of, enjoying being a morning person, her mornings always met with fun songs, a song that she liked, and she would wake up happy. And even now, she wakes up happy, much to my disappointment because I'm still a grumpy waker upper. So she wake up, she's happy, and I'm like, I just want to sleep. Anyway, music, okay? So introduce music, especially in the morning when it can feed off as much as possible. In the evening, let him listen to the radio, okay? And if you can introduce more nursery rhymes for him that he's able to encounter, especially in school, that will give him more words, okay? Then play the fill-in game with him, the one that I've just taught you. Sing a song, leave out the last word. Let him fill it in, okay? And he's going to develop his speech much, much faster. If you want more help with that, I keep saying our workbooks are still available, people. We have workbooks for speech development. We have workbooks to even teach piano with our internal curriculum from level 1 to level 5 for neurodivergent children specifically. So you know how to move from session 1 all the way to the last one. We have musics for we have workbooks for emotional regulation. We have all those ready and waiting for you and at your disposal. And for Michelle, we also have monthly trainings for music therapy. You have music therapy monthly trainings where we delve deep into the neuroscience of music. So those things I've just touched on here, neurogenesis, neuroplasticity. We now really go deep into the brain and how music touches on each one of them and how to work with neurodivergent children and every other case and other case studies. For those who want to do longer and pursue music therapy as a career, we have 6 months courses and we have so much research that needs to be done. So if you know young people out there who want to do music therapy or who love music therapy, please do direct them to us, haraka upesi, because that is why we are here. The more we know about how powerful music is, the more we are able to use it in the right way, the more we are able to change the early interventions of our children. Yes, I'll be sharing my contact details in a few. Thank you for reminding me, Lillian. So, yes, any questions? Any questions? Before we wrap up in the next 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
Okay, I don't have a question, but I'd love to say thank you for the short, can I say short class? I've really enjoyed.
I'm glad. I'm glad. The 1 month is even much more fun.
Okay.
And
So
you
you
insist enough?
yes?
I've insisted enough, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
had to.
I can see your number.
Yes, yes.
So let's
So
just text you on WhatsApp, then we'll talk more.
no problem, no problem. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, there's a recording. There's a recording for this, Lillian, and I will share it. I will share it with you once it's ready. I'll share it, the link on the inclusive groups. I think that's where most of you have gotten the link for this webinar from. But in case you are not in one of those groups, you will also be able to find the recording and other recordings of webinars that I've done before on our YouTube page, which is Music in Color. I'm just putting it there, KE. Music in Color KE. If you look for that on our YouTube page, you'll find the other webinars that we have done, and you can go through them. YouTube, Music in Color KE, I think that's it, yes. So thank you so much for joining me. Is there any other question, any other remark before we end the day?
Yeah, thank you very much for the great presentation. And for me, it's just an introduction. I think I'll follow up. I just want a clarification. When you say reading music, what do you mean? Yeah.
You know those things of crochet, minims, G clef.
Yes.
You know that. So that's reading music. Okay. So where they actually, because music in itself, it's a language where they have to read the. Give me a minute. Let me show you. I don't know. Amma, you've understood. But let me show you something.
Yes.
So it's reading something as simple as, I don't know if you'll be able to see. So can you see?
Yes, we can say.
Yeah, so that's a music score. Okay. So having a child be able to understand what is here and then interpret it to now play the melody and the song that's there on the piano. That's reading music. And reading music has like 5 different layers. You have to know the note, you have to connect with your fingers, you have to know how long to play the note. So there are like 5 levels of information you need to know to do one thing. And that is what makes it so powerful on the brain.
Okay. For an institution, what kind of instruments should we invest in?
Just have
Which one would you recommend? Like, if with lack of resources you're trying to, what is the basic one that we must have?
Just have a keyboard. Buy a keyboard, that's it. A keyboard, you'll get it at most 25,000, a new one. And you can even get a second hand. You can even purchase a second hand. So if you need just one instrument, buy a keyboard. A keyboard will do so much more for the kids, because even as an organization, our main instrument is the keyboard. That's the one we always start with before we even transition kids to other instruments like guitar and violin. The piano is the best instrument to start with for any child, because any child can start on it, even a 3-year-old. So that's what I would recommend. And it's also
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Wonderful. Any other questions? Good. Thank you so much for joining me over this chaotic webinar, but I hope it has been informative. So remember, we always have this webinar every month, okay? It's supposed to be every 3rd Thursday of every month. So I'll be sharing the link on your respective groups. Yes, Michelle, I think I'll want to get the contact of your lecturer, so that would be amazing to talk to her. And every recording that we do, in case you're not able to join our webinars, you'll always find it on our YouTube page. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. Have a lovely evening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out via the number that I've shared. Thank you so much and have a good night. Bye.